Namaste Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Canto 9, Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Celestial Dynasties, and we shall be reading from chapter 11, which is Lord Rama's Pastimes. Parikshit had heard Rama's history many times. Nevertheless, he was eager to hear more. Please continue to recite Lord Rama's glorious pastimes. Mukam Kauti Vachalam, Pangum Langhete Girim, Yat Kripa Tamam Vande Shigurum Din Taridam, Paramananda Madhavam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram, Hari Om Tatsat. Parikshit had heard Rama's history many times. Nevertheless, he was eager to hear more. Please continue to recite Lord Rama's glorious pastimes. Shukadev said, one of Ram's first acts was to accept a spiritual master who could oversee the performance of opulent sacrifices. Since Ram is the supreme person, he effectively worshipped himself through these rituals. After the sacrifices, Ram donated the lands to the east, south, west and north of his kingdom to the Hota, Brahma, Advaryu and Udgat priests respectively. Considering that the world is safest in the hands of Brahmins who have no material desires and will thus not exploit it, he donated the central lands to his spiritual master. He only kept the clothes and ornaments he and his queen wore. The Brahmins' hearts melted with affection. They returned everything, assuring him they did not require material remuneration. They knew he was the Supreme Lord, worshipped by self-realized souls. By his grace, they could see his presence in their hearts, and thus they were free of ignorance. They accepted this as the greatest gift. Parikshit said, how did the Lord deal with the ordinary citizens? Shukadev said, it was Ram's practice to disguise himself and go out amongst his people. Thus he could assess if they were happy or had any complaints about his administration. On one such occasion, while walking through the residential district, he heard a man shouting in his home. Hearing Sita's name mentioned, he became curious and listened intently. The man chastised his wife in a loud voice. You go to another man's house, and therefore you are unchaste and polluted. I shall not maintain you any longer. A henpecked husband like Ram may accept his wife after she went to another man's house. But I am not henpecked like him, therefore I shall not accept you again. This man was foolish. Nevertheless, Ram feared others would also criticize him. If people perceived even an imagined fault in him, they would use that as an excuse to stray from their religious duties. Ram returned home with heavy heart. The next day he called for his brother Lakshman and ordered him to take the pregnant Sita to the forest and leave her near sage Valmiki's ashram. There she gave birth to her twin sons Love and Kush. Valmiki performed their birth ceremonies. Parikshit asked about Ram's brothers. Shukadev said, they each had two sons. Lakshman's sons were Angad and Chitraketu. Bharat's sons were Taksha and Pushkal, and Shatrughan's sons were Subahu and Shrutasena. Desiring to serve his elder brother, Bharat headed an army that conquered belligerent kings in all directions. During his campaign, he killed millions of Gandharvas and gave their wealth to Ram. Shatrughna also went out on a military campaign during which he killed the powerful Rakshas Lavan. They fought in a forest called Madhuvan, named after Lavan's father, Madhu Rakshas. After defeating Lavan, Shatrughna established a town called Mathura in Madhuvan forest. Pray tell me what happened to Mother Sita. She found the pain of separation from Ram impossible to bear. Thus, entrusting her two sons to Valmiki's care, she entered the earth. Did Ram ever learn of Sita's disappearance? Yes, and the news greatly aggrieved him. Parikshit looked perplexed. Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How could he be upset by the illusory happenings in this world? The Lord is not subject to material grief due to his spiritual intelligence. However, remembering Sita's exalted qualities, he could not check himself. Yet you should know that his grief was born of transcendental love and thus imbued with bliss. It is not so for conditioned souls. Their amorous relationships obliged them to continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death and cause fear. This is true of the ordinary conditioned souls and great controllers in the material world such as Brahma and Shiva. Pray tell me what Ram did after Sita's departure. When he heard Sita had entered the earth, he vowed to practice complete celibacy, and for next 13,000 years he performed an uninterrupted Agnihotra sacrifice. Then he returned to his spiritual abode. After his departure, Ayodhya's citizens became absorbed in his remembrance, meditating on how his lotus feet had been pricked with thorns when he wandered barefoot in Dandakaranya forest. Would it not have been better to meditate on the Lord's victory over Ravan? Asked Parikshit. Shukadev smiled. Lord Ram's victory over Ravan on the request of the gods and his building a bridge over the ocean displays his astonishing power. However, it is not so wonderful for him. His spiritual body has no equal nor superior. Then why did he need the Vanar's help to regain Sita? He did not need their assistance, but by seeming to depend on others, he makes his pastimes sweeter. This is why they are so attractive. Great sages like Markandeya describe them even to this day. You may know he recounted Ram's pastimes in your grandfather. Yudhishthir's quote, what to speak of early emperors, even gods like Shiva and Brahma, worship Lord Ram, for simply by hearing about him, all one's sins are destroyed. Folding his palms together, Shukadev lowered his head. I offer him my obeisance. Parikshit said, what happened to Ram's relatives and friends? What to speak of them? Everyone in Ayodhya during his reign returned to the same spiritual planet as Ram, for they all had some relationship with him, either as a citizen, a servant, or friend. Parikshit sighed. How fortunate they were, my dear Parikshit. Anyone who even hears about Ram's pastimes becomes blessed. For by such hearing they will gradually relinquish their envy of the Lord and thus be freed from their karmic reactions. Parikshit became even more eager. He said, please tell me how Ram acted when he became king. Specifically, how did he relate with his brothers, who were also expansions of Godhead? Likewise, how did his brothers and his citizens treat him? Shukadev said, after accepting the throne due to Bharat's earnest request, Ram ordered his younger brothers to go out and conquer the world. His brothers complied and he gave them dominion over their conquered lands. Now hear how kindly Ram treated his citizens and how they reciprocated. Out of his mercy, he stayed in Ayodhya to give audience to the citizens and administer the state with his other assistants. During Ram's reign, elephants daily sprinkle perfumed liquor on Ayodhya streets. The citizens greatly appreciated how opulent Ayodhya became under Ram's supervision. The palaces, palace gates, assembly houses, public meeting daises, temples and other such places were adorned with golden water pots and bedecked with colorful flags. The city was decorated with excellent tapestries and with betel nut trees and banana trees with fruits, and its gates were covered with tapestries, flags, mirrors, and garlands. Wherever Ram visited, citizens flocked to worship him and beg for his blessings. O Lord, they called out, in your incarnation as Varaha, you rescued the earth from the bottom of the causal ocean. We pray that you bless us all by now maintaining her. Since they had not seen Ram for many years of his exile, all the people, both men and women, were eager to see him. The roofs of palatial buildings were packed with crowds anxious for a glance of the Lord. Everywhere people showered him with flowers. After greeting his citizens, Ram entered the grand palace of his forefathers. Within that marble mansions were countless treasures and extensive wardrobes filled with costly garments. The sitting places on the two sides of the entrance floor were coral. Pillars of Vaidurya gems surrounded the yard. The floor was highly polished Markat gemstone and the foundation was pure marble. The palace was decorated with flags and garlands and bedecked with valuable stones that shone with celestial effulgence. It was decorated with pearls and surrounded by lamps Fragrant incense smoke billowed from the latticed window, and the holy chants could always be heard. The men and women within the palace all resembled gods and were decorated with brilliant ornaments, which seemed even more beautiful because they were placed on their bodies. In that palace, Lord Ram and Goddess Sita enjoyed complete happiness. In this way, my dear Parikshit, Lord Ram, on whose lotus feet devotees always meditate, enjoyed everything desirable for as long as he wanted. However, he never transgressed religious principles. As Sutta included his account, the assembly of sages at Naimisharanya burst into Kirtan, Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Jai Ram. The Kirtan went on for a while, but gradually they quietened down out of an eagerness to hear more. Please continue with your narration, dear Sutta, urged Shaunak. So let's read chapter 12 also. It's very short, and it's called the Solar Dynasty. Sutta told the assembly that Shukadev was anxious to speak about the moon god's dynasty in which Lord Krishna appeared. Therefore, he only briefly named the dynasty descending from Ram's son Kusha. Among them, Balasthala was said to have been born of the sun's effulgence. Hiranyab studied under Jaimini 4 generations later and became a great mystic yoga teacher. He taught the renowned saint Yajnavalkya Adhyatma Yoga, which frees one of worldly attachment. 6 generations after Hiranyab was Maru, who also achieved perfection in mystic yoga. Maru continues to live in Kalpagram, and when Kali Yuga ends, he will revive the lost Surya dynasty. Before Maru left for Kalpagram, he begot a son, Prasur Shruta. 7 generations after Prasu Shruta, Brihadbala was born. Brihadbala was the contemporary of Parikshit's father, Abhimanyu, and had been killed by him in battle. Shukadev then summarily listed 30 generations of kings in the Ikshvaku dynasty descending from Brihadbala who were yet to be born. Some of these he praised as being great commanders or heroes. He concluded with Sumitra, the last king in the sun god's dynasty. So we'll continue our reading from chapter 13 next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Happy Navratri to all of you. And Damodar month is also not too far away. Hare Krishna. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.